At this time last year, your Heisman Trophy favorites were Spencer Rattler and Sam Howell. For Howell, it wasn't even the first Saturday of the season. It was a Friday night on opening weekend when his North Carolina team only put up 10 points against what turned out to be a woeful Virginia Tech team. North Carolina lost that game and 7 total, 6-7 for North Carolina. Sam Howell was under siege behind a bad offensive line all season. For Spencer Rattler, he threw 6 touchdowns and 5 interceptions against everyone not named Western Carolina as he lost his job against Texas as his team trailed 28-7 at halftime. Now Spencer Rattler is at South Carolina and Sam Howell off to the NFL draft. So for what it's worth, our 12-pack of Heisman Trophy candidates here at the Voice of College Football. Please like the video. Share these videos out on social media. Leave your comments down below. Let me know who I missed. And keep in mind, this is our prime 12 candidates. These are the favorites in my eyes. But there is another video coming of dark horse Heisman Trophy candidates. So we've got a list of about 40 or 45 players total. So if you name them down below and they're not already on my list, I will be surprised. But give me your thoughts on our Heisman Trophy candidates. Subscribe right here at the Voice of College Football on the main channel. But also, of course, check out our many team channels, 25 of them. All right, let's get to the list of 12. Starting at number 12, Trevon Henderson, number 1 rated running back coming out of high school, 5-star at Ohio State, and he lived up to the hype. Ask Tulsa, 277 yards rushing. That's an all-time record for a Buckeye freshman. He ran for 1,255 total, 6.8 yards per carry and 15 touchdowns. Caught 27 passes out of the backfield for 312 yards and 4 touchdowns. Check out the Trevon Henderson run against Purdue. He turned the corner, and Purdue's got a pretty good secondary, guys that can run, and he split the secondary and outraced all of them when they had the angle. Trevon Henderson was magical. And again, the Tulsa performance, legendary at Ohio State. He had 2 other 100-yard games, but he only had 3 games in which he carried the ball more than 20 times, as, of course, the Buckeyes leaned on the pass heavily. He had his biggest day against Penn State in regards to lugging the football against a quality opponent with 28 carries in a hard-fought win against Penn State. Trevon Henderson, the opener against Notre Dame, will be huge for him, his team, and his Heisman candidacy. All right. At number 11, we've got TVD, Tyler Van Dyke of Miami. Wow. De'Ara King entered last season as the solid starter, undisputed starter, a top 10 to 15 starter in the nation at Miami. He was, of course, injured early in the season. Tyler Van Dyke took over. He got his first taste of NCAA football against Central Connecticut State. It served him well because then he took on the ACC and did it rather well. Wow. Against Virginia and against North Carolina, he took his lumps his first couple starts against big opponents. 15 of 29 against Virginia, 3 picks against North Carolina in 2 close losses. And then he just took off with 6 consecutive games of 3 to 4 touchdown passes per game. And in his last 6 games, he also defeated, he and his teammates, the 2 best teams in the ACC on their schedule, Pitt, the ACC champion, and a 9-3 North Carolina State team, as he threw for over 350 yards in all those games. Tyler Van Dyke has a Miami team that has the best talent in that division. They should get to the ACC championship game. If they do, and Clemson's just as vulnerable as they were this past season, if they make the ACC championship game, Tyler Van Dyke's got that on his checklist, along with what possibly could be a impressive performance against Texas A&M on a national stage. At number 11 for us in our Heisman race, Tyler Van Dyke. At number 10, we've got Sam Hartman of Wake Forest. He, of course, took this program to an ACC championship game. That is a big, big deal at Wake Forest. its first conference title game since 2006. Also a bowl win as they finished 11-3. And their best record since 2007. Sam Hartman, despite a bad defensive showing from his teammates, led Wake to those heights. 59% completion percentage, over 4,000 yards, 42-28, 39 touchdowns, 14 picks. He finished 7th in the nation in yards, 5th in touchdowns. And again, if this team could win the ACC, that would be huge for Sam Hartman's candidacy. We've got Wake quarterback Sam Hartman at number 10. At number 9, we stay at quarterback and we go to another unheralded team and quarterback in Aidan O'Connell and Purdue. The last time we saw O'Connell, it was in the midst of one of the more exciting bowl games of the bowl season, a 48-45 overtime win over Tennessee in which he threw 5 touchdown passes. Aidan O'Connell hit on almost 72% of his passes, 3,700 yards, 28 touchdowns, and 11 picks. He notched 2 top 5 wins over Michigan State and Iowa. He hit on 30 of 40 against Iowa for 375 yards. Also 40 of 54 for 536 yards against Sparty. He threw for 16 touchdowns in his last 4 games. Again, 5 against Tennessee. Penn State is the opener. A nice showcase for Aidan O'Connell and Purdue, our number 9 Heisman favorite. At number 8, we mentioned him already. It's time for a comeback for young Spencer Rattler at South Carolina. He's reborn. He's renewed. He's playing for Shane Spencer and an up-and-coming Gamecock team. Again, 11 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and a disappointing start to the 2021 season, and only 6 touchdowns and 5 picks against everybody but Western Carolina for Spencer Rattler. He, of course, was benched against Texas, played very little after that. But in 2020, he threw for 28 touchdowns in a short season against 7 picks, 67% completion percentage, and sending Oklahoma to the Big 12 title there. He could be a difference maker in the SEC Eastern Division. Will South Carolina have a chance to unseat Georgia? I think not. But if he can show to be a difference maker for the Gamecocks, put in Spencer Rattler as a Heisman candidate here in 2021. At number 7, we go back to the Big Ten and Braelon Allen. What a beast as a 17-year-old. Unbelievable. Okay, he had to share carries to start the season with Chez Mellusi, the Clemson transfer. So for Chez Mellusi, he only had 12 carries in his first 3 games. Then Mellusi got hurt, and it was all up to Braelon Allen to carry the Wisconsin offense. And he is the classic dominant Wisconsin running back, running behind a Wisconsin offensive line. So look out this season. After gaining over 100 yards in 8 games in 2021, 1,268 for the season, 6.8 yards per carry and 12 touchdowns. He racked up 228 against Nebraska, 173 against Northwestern, and 159 yards in Wisconsin's bowl win against Arizona State. At number 7 on our list is Braelon Allen of Wisconsin. On to number 6, a man without a team, but he will find one soon, and he's got his choice of many. Caleb Williams, 21 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. And Spencer Rattler's undoing was, of course, Caleb Williams' opportunity as a freshman. Took over against Texas, down 28-7, and led a tremendous comeback in that game with over 300 yards. And in the second half, and 3 touchdowns against the Longhorns as they came all the way back to win that game. He accounted for 27 total touchdowns, did Caleb Williams, and a 21 of 27 effort against Oregon in the Alamo Bowl. And had a 3-touchdown, no-pick game in the finale against Oklahoma State. Not his fault that the Sooners couldn't get it done to get to a Big 12 championship game. All right, Caleb Williams is looking for a team, but he will be a Heisman candidate and possible favorite here in 2022. At number 5, we go to Columbus again, and Jaxon Smith-Njigba. Oh, my word, the Rose Bowl was his. It was all his. Imagine upstaging a quarterback who threw 6 touchdowns and 573 yards. That's what Jaxon Smith-Njigba did. He was amazing in that game in the absence of Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson. So also imagine without Olave and Wilson for Stroud, even though there are other tremendously talented receivers on this Ohio State roster, JSN is the guy. He is the guy with the talent and also the performance and credibility and ability and reliability coming back from this 2021 season, in which he caught 95 balls for over 1,600 yards and 9 touchdowns. He had amazing games against Oregon, Nebraska, Purdue, Michigan State, and Michigan. All the teams that I just mentioned right there. He caught 52 passes against them in the big games, in the big moments. Jaxon Smith-Njigba, our number 5 Heisman favorite. At number 4, we go to Alabama, and we go to the defensive side of the football, and maybe the best player in college football, one Will Anderson. He should have been a Heisman finalist. He should have been at the ceremony in New York this past December. Oh, my word, 101 tackles out of a defensive lineman, 17 and a half sacks, 31 tackles for loss. 31 tackles for loss. That is amazing. We will see him on center stage against Texas in week 2. We're talking about here not a guy that's probably going to win the Heisman because of the bias toward offensive players and their statistics. But we're talking about a guy who might be the Aaron Donald of college football, meaning the best player in college football, as Aaron Donald is many times promoted in the NFL ranks as being the best player at the pro level. At number 4, Will Anderson, Alabama. At number 3, we stay with this Texas-Alabama theme in week 2, and a marquee showcase for Bijan Robinson to show that he should be a serious Heisman candidate. He had a bit of an off season this past year compared to what was expected. But again, the Texas offensive line has been the worst unit on this team for years and years and years, and thus was the case in 2021. Bijan ran for 5.8 yards per carry and 11 touchdowns, 1,127 yards, down games against Baylor and also against Arkansas. But Bijan Robinson, probably the best back in college football, is our number 3 Heisman candidate. At number 2, can you guess the top 2? He threw for the aforementioned 573 yards and 6 touchdowns against Utah in the Rose Bowl. He brought the Buckeyes back from down 2 touchdowns, 3 different occasions. And more than the stat sheet, you had to see the throws that he made. He made Aaron Rodgers type throws on a few occasions. It was remarkable. The leadership, the progress, the development, the confidence. Yes, he had the ability in week 1 against Minnesota, and it was understandable. His first time throwing a pass at the collegiate level, he's on national TV against a solid opponent, and then in week 2, thrown into the fire against Oregon, and he threw for 484, even though a lot of people blamed him for the loss against the Oregon Ducks. Wow, what a season. It's 72% completion percentage, 4,400 yards, 44 touchdowns, 6 picks. CJ Stroud, our number 2 player in this race. But of course, recent Ohio State quarterbacks are judged by how they play against Michigan, and not just play against Michigan, but because he put up 400 yards against the Wolverines in Ann Arbor this past November. Who beats Michigan? CJ Stroud's got to do that. And of course, the opener against Notre Dame will be mighty imperative for him as well. And our number 1 candidate, we hate to be so obvious, but he is the Heisman winner, and he has a real opportunity to be the second man in history to win 2 Heisman trophies. Recognition, of course, goes to Archie Griffin, 1974-75 of Ohio State. Bryce Young, 4,800 yards, 47 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, an SEC championship, and he took his team to the national championship game, of course, against the Georgia Bulldogs without his 2 best receivers for most of that game. All right, look at what he did against Auburn in the closing minutes. Down by a touchdown, 97-yard drive, brilliant throws in that game, elusive playmaker, fluid, leader, can do it all. He's going to be loaded at wide receiver, even despite the losses of Mechie and Williams this season. Yes, he lost his best weapons, and the other guys are going to have to step up and prove that they can be elite. He threw for 559 yards. That's a record, an Alabama record against Arkansas, and they needed all of it in a close win over the Hogs. And, of course, against the Georgia Bulldogs, the number one defense in college football in the SEC championship game, he put up 42 points and an SEC championship game record, 421 yards. Our number one candidate to win the Heisman is the same guy who took it in 2021. Bryce Young, quarterback, Alabama. Best discussion, debate, and analysis of the game we all love each and every day with you. Please lock it in here at the Voice of College Football, and we will see you next time with our Heisman Dark Horses.